Good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever it is, wherever you are. Thank you once again for listening to the Backlog Busting Project. It is episode 18. My name is Wes. With me, as always, is Randy.
18 episodes, and I pulled a first.
Oh, nice.
This episode, so
well,
we'll get to that.
Actually, I think you may have pulled a first for a lot of different things, not just our show. But like he said, we'll get to that later on in the show. We're going to go ahead get right on started here. We're going to go right into play or nay for this episode. And honestly, last episode we said we're bringing back more play or nay, and then this week we looked at the schedule and we kind of went, huh.
Yeah, so, there's not a ton of releases this time, but I will say the ones that are coming out are very diverse and interesting.
Yeah. That's one way of putting it. So, the first one on the list is a series that I'd spent a pretty good chunk of my childhood on, actually, which is, surprising if you know what I look like in real life. It's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, releasing September 29th, developed by Robomoto and published by Activision. It also has versions coming out for the previous gen consoles, but if I remember correctly, they're coming out a bit later. So, yeah, there's that. The interesting thing about this is they finally basically, I think they're basically trying to say, yeah, we're going back to when this series was good, because they did Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, and then they started, kind of going into things with Underground and American Wasteland and Project 8 and
so on and so on.
And Ride and Shred and basically the skating game genre died because they didn't know what the hell they were doing for most of those games. And then they did Robomoto did Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD a while back last year, and that seemed to kind of get some nice reactions. So they went back and they applied their knowledge to a whole new game. But the thing is, though, I'm just over skateboarding games as a genre, really. If I really wanted to play a Tony Hawk game, I can just go back and play Underground, or, Underground is the only one I own, now that I think about it. But, if I wanted to play them, I'd just go play one of the old school ones, because, honestly, this series, to me, would be about the nostalgia at this point.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of nostalgia, and it's a lot of, well, what else can they do? I mean, not to really, knock on skateboarding as a sport, because they do some ridiculous stuff. But you can only push the envelope so much in a video game. Obviously, it's not the most realistic. It's not a skateboarding sim.
Right.
Skateboarders cannot fly through the air like they do and do 10 moves or whatever. But at some point, you've kind of hit your limit. And even watching gameplays of this, it's like, well, I've seen all this before and nothing looks different. And to me, the few videos that we watched, it was not the best graphically. This could have been done on the PS3, to me. So
no, in the videos, the one video I sat and watched together with you, I thought it looked a little bit over PS3 level.
Maybe.
So,
but far from any of this PS4 stuff, and Xbox One included. So.
Right.
But I'm with you. It's not that exciting, especially for a $60 game. Maybe a bargain bin in a couple years, just to goof around on.
That really cements my nay answer now, because I was under the assumption that it was downloadable only. But if it's an actual retail disc, then hell no.
Oh, I don't know. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But
well, we know what happens when you assume, what happened with the Disgaea Triple Play collection last episode, which was partially my fault, but
what do we assume there?
We assumed it was going to be, we assumed it was going to be 3, 4, and, it was going to be 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, okay.
And it ended up being 3, 4, and D2. So, yeah. That's going to be a nay for both of us on that one. Speaking of Disgaea, though, the next game up on the list is going to be Disgaea 5 Alliance of Vengeance, releasing for the PlayStation 4 on October 6th. It is, of course, developed by Nippon Ichi Software and published by Nippon Ichi Software America, NIS America, as I usually end up calling them. And, well, I think this is going to go very similar to we were talking about the Disgaea Triple Play Collection last episode, where we both kind of went, it's Disgaea at this point. It's a whole lot of anime and a whole lot of numbers, is the way I put it when we were, watching the trailers and gameplay vids on this one. But my answer is going to be different this time because while I was kind of a little off-put by the Triple Play Collection being on PS3, this would be a new Disgaea on a new system with a bunch of new features, which they usually hit it out of the park when they go to a new numbered iteration. So I'm going to go play on this one.
Yeah, I'm play as well. I think I talked about on the last podcast how I've beaten all of them up until 4. And I've played 4. I own it for my Vita. It's one of those games that it takes a lot of time to beat.
Yeah.
And I just haven't had that kind of time.
Yeah, it's very grindy.
I had put it on the schedule before I smartened up and got rid of it because trying to beat that in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Not yet. In time, but not yet. But yeah, it's a play for me. Like you said, put it on a PS4. What they do every single time, they up the ante and just go crazier and crazier, and I always enjoy to see what they come up with. So this is easily a play for me.
Yeah. And, so I'm interested in playing it myself, even though I really needed to get around to beating every single other game in the series. Ugh. At any rate...
You're doing that after Fallout, right?
No, there's another series I'll be doing after that, pretty much, at that point, if I'm remembering the schedule correctly. But, no. So, the next game is another entry into a series that is near and dear to both of us. That I'm actually kind of interested to hear what the reaction is going to be. It's going to be Rock Band 4, releasing for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, also on October 6th. It is, of course, developed by Harmonix Music Systems and published by Mad Catz.
Wait, what?
Yep, Mad Catz is doing the distribution on this game.
Okay, I'm changing my mind.
Oh. Well, well, I know why you're saying that, but they've improved a little bit over the years. So, getting back to it, of course, Rock Band 4 is the latest entry into the Rock Band series, which, the plastic instrument genre was very, very popular a few years back. Me and Randy both got into it a lot with, well, it was mostly me, because I'm the one that plopped the money down on, the full set and all the games, and then I sold it to you when I tried to go off to college. And then the competition on both ends got a little bit too intense. They flooded the market, and it crashed. And then also the economy crashed, much less the plastic video game market crashed.
Yes.
But anyway, so Harmonix finally decided the time was right to take another shot at it. So they just got the team together, decided to do it upright. They've got a whole bunch of... they've got a pretty decent set list from the songs I've seen them release on disc, and then they're also going to be working to bring their massive DLC collection from the previous 3 games forward to this generation, and let you keep the DLC you already bought for the previous 3 games. And, oh, by the way, they're going to be basically updating it going forward with free feature DLCs. Free. Like the first one they announced at TwitchCon the other day is going to be in December, and it's going to add back in some community beloved features that they left by the wayside on the actual physical disc. So, my answer on this one is actually going to be play, still. Because I was sitting around the other day and I watched some of the TwitchCon video, and even though most of the Twitch bands were fucking terrible, it made me feel a little better about my acumen with Rock Band. I was sitting there, and even as I was going, oh god, these guys suck, I was sitting there going, wow, I haven't played this in a while, and I want to. I miss playing, some of the DLC, and I miss playing, laughing at the band name generator.
Mm-hmm.
and making our guys look fucking ridiculous. You know? So, I'm excited. I'm going to say play.
Yeah, I'm kind of back and forth on this. Like, when they first announced it, I was way into it. I know you and I had discussions about how excited we were to... Mm-hmm. It's like, it was one of those things where we kind of died out with the whole generation and went, okay, we don't need to do this ever again. And then they announced it and like, yeah, this is great. And then I don't know what it is, whether it's just been so long since I was so hyped about it. It's like, yeah, okay. But I know if, like, you came over and plopped one of those plastic guitars in my hands and said, let's play, I would go, yeah, all right, let's do it. Yeah. But as far as plopping down all the money for the new instruments I'd have to get, because I'd be moving to the PS4 from all the Xbox 360 stuff.
Well, if I may interject here, I think this is kind of going into personal discussion a little bit, but you do still have my login information for the Xbox 360 with all the DLC, and that transfers between families. So you could theoretically...
But the controllers.
Right.
The songs and stuff or whatever, but as far as the controllers go, it's kind of... And on top of it, Fallout 4 is coming out, and I still haven't bought Metal Gear Solid 5, and all these other games we've been saying play. So to me, it's a play. It seems interesting. It's just financially, this will be a play come like May next year.
Shit, if that.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I can see your point there.
It's a play as far as playing the game, but for a while, I'm not interested in buying it. It's not going to be an
October 6th at midnight play.
No. Well, if somebody put it in front of me, yeah. But it's a nay for now as far as me putting down the money that would be needed to be able to play.
Hey, Harmonix, if you're somehow listening to this, we'll take free bundles.
Yeah, we love you guys.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean it, Mad Cats, if you want to send me extra shit. No, I don't.
No, I should have just been like, you did say something at first, and that's what prompted me to kind of expound on it. I was about to say, I was the one, badmouth Mad Cats, kind of. Anyway, so, the last game on the list for this episode is one that, when it was announced, I kind of froze up a little bit, and just brain rebooted. Because I did not expect this game series to get a treatment from this developer. And that would be Minecraft Story Mode Episode 1, The Order of the Stone, releasing for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on October 13th. Developed, of course, by Telltale Games. This is Telltale Games taking their by now trademark, storytelling games, where you have the 4 buttons give you dialogue choice and characters will react and blah, 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 etc., and applying it to the world of Minecraft, which is okay. If I remember the vague details correctly, this is like following a bunch of kids that, idolize this group of adventurers called the Order of the Stone, and the first episode is about them meeting their heroes and all kind of stuff like that, and they get plunged into the storyline. And apparently, over the course of the series, you're going to be going to like the iconic, I almost said Borderlands, Minecraft locations, like the Farlands, which actually came around because of a bug in early versions of Minecraft. I believe they said they'll be visiting the Nether and all that other kind of good stuff. Here's the thing. I like Minecraft. I like Telltale, even though I have yet to really complete any of their series. I've played around with a few of them, gotten a bit into like episode 1 of Back to the Future and The Walking Dead, and Puzzle Agent was the other Telltale one I've played. But it's just, at this point, my brain is still kind of wrapping my head around Minecraft getting a story-driven RPG experience. Well, I hesitate to say RPG, but you get what I mean. A storytelling game.
Yes. So,
I'm gonna say play, kind of. If it like goes to PlayStation Plus, or, I get it drops into my lap. But as far as actually spending money on it, no. Because I just... Yeah.
Well, I kind of worry for the people that, have played most of the Telltale games lately, this because they've kind of saturated their own market, because they have The Walking Dead going on, and The Wolf Among Us, and that Borderlands game, and Game of Thrones, and now Minecraft, and I'm sure I'm missing one, because they seem to be coming out with a new series every other week. So for the people that, are playing all of them, I think just like you said, it feels like this would be the worst of all of those, just from the content that they're pulling from. Like, they're making up their own story. I've heard Wolf Among Us is amazing, I just haven't played it.
Yeah.
But I played The Walking Dead, and it's great. So I'm kind of hesitant, but it's more of a play for me, just because I haven't saturated that market that much. Like I said, I played The Walking Dead, I played some of the Back to the Future ones. But I'm not, sick of that genre yet. So, it's a play for me for now, but I can understand it might not meet the expectations of some of the other ones that Telltale does.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, that's going to wrap up Player Nay for this week,
yes.
Or episode. I don't know why I keep saying week. We might do a more Player Nay on some of the other titles, but don't bet on it. There wasn't really too much that really jumped out at either of us as requiring, wow, we should really write some words about this. So, yeah, maybe not. Check backlogbusting.com for that. We are going to go ahead and go right into the meat and potatoes of the show. We're going to start talking about the games we played for this episode. And we will start, as we mostly always do, with the co-played game.
Yes.
That will be Valiant Hearts, The Great War, which is also optionally subtitled in, I believe it's French, but I'm not going to try to say that in French. It was I played it on PSC, and Randy played it on PS4. I believe it pretty much released for everything it was possible to release on. So like PS4, PS3, Xbox One, Xbox 360, and Wii U, I believe. Developed and published by Ubisoft, and released on June 24th of 2014. This is... trying to think of a good way to describe this game. A 2D side-scrolling puzzle game? Puzzle platformer?
Kind of like those adventure games that you play, like Maniac Mansion.
Yeah, that would be a...
That's how I kind of put it. It's a toned-down version of those kind of adventure games, because the puzzles aren't way over the top.
Yeah,
that's how
there's
you
not
get through
really
it.
a whole lot of inventory manipulation. It's all stuff that's out in the game world. It's not, okay, I have this entire bag of stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
What do I use from my inventory on this random thing to make whatever I want to happen? There's none of that in this game.
No, at most you ever can basically have 2 items.
Yeah, because the dog can carry one and
Yes.
you can carry one. So... let's backtrack a little bit. This game is, as you might have guessed from the subtitle of The Great War, it's set in World War I era France and Germany, basically Europe, and it's a story about a family that's separated because of the war, and how they kind of come back together and live through the horror that was World War I. And I've got to say, right off the bat, I loved the storyline in this game, and I loved the amount of historical details they put in. Like, after just about every screen, it would show you more details about the actual history of what you're playing. And I actually learned quite a bit that I hadn't learned about World War I.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like, it's very educational. It's one of those games that if you're a teacher of like history, it's almost worth it to sit through and play this game with your students and make sure you stop and read every little extra thing that pops up, because not only do you get more information about the war, the game does a great job of making you understand what it felt to be part of that war, which is something that no history book's ever going to do.
Yeah. So, I believe the main character's name is Klaus, isn't it?
Emil,
and then Carl is the son, Emil's son-in-law.
Yes.
So basically, for a large portion of the game, you play as Emil, who is the French father of a German, Carl, who's married to Carl or Emil's daughter.
Yes.
And basically, what happens is the war breaks out, and Carl gets deported because he's German. And Emil stays behind in France, and they get drafted by their respective armies. And you basically spend the entire game seeing the story of how these two, get back together even across enemy lines and try to survive the war.
Yeah,
and
it's crazy because you also get these diary entries that you read from time to time, and it's there's a point where Emil gets captured. And, he's a prisoner of war in the German camp, and then...
And Carl's wow, Emil's here. I need to get him out somehow, or need to make sure he stays safe.
Yeah, it's just some really interesting things, and then the back and forth with the daughter who's writing home about the conditions at home, and it happens a couple times where I think then later Carl gets captured, so then the role reverses, and...
Yeah. And then there's also an American that comes over to fight, and I forget what his name is.
Freddie.
Freddie, yeah. And, you play as all of these different people at various points in time, and then the last one you play as is Anna, the medic. And
she is in search of her dad, who is a scientist, and the Germans, right?
Yeah,
the Germans kind of basically kept him prisoner to make him create things.
The nefarious Baron von Dorf, which I'm sure is an actual baron in World War I era Germany. But when I saw that name, I was just like, I had to take my hands off the keyboard and mouse and just laugh for a minute. I don't know what about that name set me off, but it just completely killed the mood, and I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna take a minute. Because I actually did play this game pretty much in one sitting. Mm-hmm. Because it is a fairly short game. It's about 6 hours long.
If that.
Yeah. But I actually found it to be very impactful with its short gameplay. The main thing I think I had a problem with is I felt some of the chapter end puzzles were a bit obtuse, or not obtuse. Sorry, that's not the term I was looking for. Difficult, timing wise.
Okay.
Like the one where you're playing as Emil and Baron von Dorf has the other party members trapped, and you have like a certain amount of time to throw 3 bundles of dynamite into the tank.
Yeah, it's 2. I think it's 2 in the back and then 1 in the front.
Yeah. For some reason, I just could not hit that timing to save my life. But other than that, the puzzles, like, you almost never get stuck on one of these puzzles. And if you do get stuck long enough, they do give you hints.
And it does not take long. I mean, I obviously am trying to get through this without all the hints and stuff. It would be like, it would give a hint, and I would... Like, if there was ever a puzzle I was struggling with, I would still give it 10 more minutes before I ever did it. It's like, oh, you've been looking at this for 45 seconds? Here, have a hint. I'm like, I know what I'm doing. It just takes forever to get over there. It's like, it basically is going, listen, we want it to be a game, so here's some puzzle stuff. But the story is the important part, so please get back to that as soon as possible.
Yeah. So, with that being said, I like the dog mechanics as well. I thought that was a pretty nice little...
Yeah, so basically, if you haven't played this game, you have a dog, and he's there to either carry something else for you, reach something that you can't...
distract guards.
Distract guards, or... Yeah, mostly distract. I was going to say attack, but I don't think...
No, he doesn't
just
attack.
Distracts.
He just walks over them and acts cute. And
he finds things that are buried, basically, and... He
can crawl under mustard gas, if provided, he can get lower so he can crawl under mustard gas or, poisonous gas, to drag people out if need be.
Yeah, and they do a really great job of coming up with puzzles that make you go, like, through your checklist of things that you can do. Mm-hmm. Not just with the dog, but with everybody. Mm-hmm. And that's what I kind of like about it. Yes, to me, the puzzles were pretty simple. Mm-hmm. And there was only a few times where I went, okay, now wait, what am I supposed to be doing here? Yeah. It just was more of a, okay, I know what I have to do, but then you go to do it, and then, it's like the old adventure games where it's roadblock after roadblock after roadblock.
Right.
And then you finally find a solution for one roadblock, and then it just kind of domino effect, and then all of a sudden you're done with the puzzle. Yeah. Which is fine, I have no problem with it. I just wish sometimes it was a little bit more difficult. Mm-hmm. Like, I understand, like, timing-wise, you're saying in a couple of these chapter-ending things could be difficult. I mean, it's not a bragging point. I think I got them both, first try, but we've had that discussion before where, for whatever reason, it could be really difficult and you just nail it, and sometimes it's really simple, but your brain just doesn't want to work. Yeah. I got lucky enough where most of those were one-shots. I do like the other part of the gameplay, like some of the driving. Yeah, I was about to get into that. Yeah. Go for it. Well, no, I was about to basically do what you were doing. But there's the side-scrolling, platformer, basically, well, not platformer, but, the side-scrolling meat and potatoes of the game where you're solving the puzzles. And then occasionally the game will throw a curveball at you and you'll, like, be doing an escape sequence where you're driving from the top of the screen to the bottom while you're avoiding obstacles or soldiers or what have you. Yes. And those were, I felt, pretty fun. They remind me of the polar bear levels in Crash Bandicoot, or the snowball level. Like, it's that kind of perspective. Or the boulder levels. Yes. But I will say, like, later on in the game, there was one puzzle where you're in... Was it the base or a mansion where it's basically the ending part of this puzzle is you look up at the window, and the window has writing on it? It's the German base. The German base. To me, that was the best puzzle just because it was like, it made sense and it was a little bit tricky. Like if you didn't know... You had the window and then you had to raise the flag and the writing on the window pointed to numbers on the flag. Yeah. Yeah. So, like, I looked out that window before, like, as setting things up. I didn't even see the writing on it. Mm-hmm. So it was like one of those, like, neat little tricks you can see out the window and see sky. That's cool. It's like, yeah, whatever. And then I put the flag up and started wandering around and just happened to look and go, oh, there's writing on this window. Yeah. And everything's kind of pointing to stuff. So I wish there was more like that, where it's just make it your brain think just a little bit more. Well, they had something similar with the first combination dial puzzle, because you had to go find the pictures with pictures, and each picture had two numbers on it. One was the order, and the other one was the actual number. I agree. Those two were very good. But there just wasn't enough of them, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But that's kind of the point. It's like I said earlier, it was more of a, we want this to be a game. So here's some puzzles for you, but please get through so you can get to the important part. So the other kind of gameplay wrinkle they throw at you is Anna, the medic. She does get a couple of opportunities to medic. And I don't know if it was the same on the PlayStation 4 version of the game, but in the PC version, it's basically almost a Guitar Hero minigame. Yes. With the 4 directional buttons. These were the 4 buttons. Like triangle, square, circle. Yeah. But the one, I thought they were pretty good, with the exception of, for me, when it started throwing, you had to hit 2 at once. It just felt like the detection was a bit off on that, because I guarantee you I was hitting those buttons at the same time, and it would just be like, nope, you missed it. I hated those. They were so boring. And, like, the last one was a little bit more difficult, but just because they were coming out really fast and they would change here and there. But it was so many times where it was the same sequence slowly going across the screen. And I could have done without those. I think that speaks to, again, what you've been kind of saying, where
they wanted to tell the story without letting the game get too much in the way.
Yeah.
So they did kind of err on the side of easy. But I actually found myself getting involved with them, especially as, we got to the last one where you're patching up Carl, who had basically gotten a lung full of mustard gas trying to drag his family out of his burning barn.
So yeah, let's get into the story now as you get kind of the ending point of this. So Wes, what did you think of the story?
Well, it's a little weird for me because, as you kind of mentioned when we chose this game, you were thinking going into it, you were going to be sad and heartbroken by the game.
Yeah.
I was kind of expecting that as well.
Yes.
And once we started playing it, I think we both kind of felt the same way about this. It was basically teasing that. Like it knew that it was a game, that was going to tug at your heartstrings. So it played with that expectation, and it would go, "Oh, he's captured. Oh, wait, no, we got him out. Next chapter. Oh, now he's captured.
He's the same chapter.
Yeah. Okay, now the other guy's captured. Oh, wait, no, he's fine. Well, now this character's dead. Oh, no, he made it. You're fine." And, hell, at one point they even tease that the dog is going to go back to its trainer, and that doesn't happen. Like, every possible moment they have, they'll tease it and then reverse it with one very, very big exception, and that is the very last moment of the game.
Yeah, so before we get there, I want to see how you feel about this. Like, I was with you for most of it, where it's like, okay, I get it, you're teasing us, whatever, somebody's gonna die, but you want to expand your gameplay a little bit before that happens, okay, whatever. And so I was kind of going, well, this is not that great, just because all it is a giant tease until the final thing, I guess. But to me, I mean, because there are people that die, there's lots of people that die, obviously, it's World War One.
Yeah, trench warfare.
But a lot of it is more like you get to know somebody just briefly, and then they die. And it's more of the impact it has on you. Like, Emil, at one point in this game, he tricks the Germans into doing something, or during the underground stuff, and he sets up all the explosions, and it blows up all these people, including a guy that just saved him from certain death. And basically, they were trying to give him a medal for it, and he went, "No,
fuck you," and threw it into the fire. Yeah,
he's like, "No." So it really pulled me in of going, this is how war changes you. Now, it's never going. Listen, for people that have been to war, I'm not going to stand here and go, well, now I know exactly how you're feeling. But it gives you a little bit of a taste of just what people had to go through for this kind of stuff. You make friendships even with the enemy, and then most of them are not going to make it, which is sad in itself. But yeah, I'm kind of with you where going into this, I expected one thing. It gave me something different.
But still in the kind of the same, honestly.
But in the end, I loved it. The story-wise, I loved it. So go ahead and get to the ending part.
Okay, so the very ending of this game, one of the last levels you have with Emil, gameplay-wise, is he is in the trenches doing like the final battle with the final push for France, and the French troops are demoralized at this point, basically, but the commander of Emil's squad is basically going go go go, like he's like he's like brandishing his sword and his pistol to force you into the next gameplay segment throughout the entire level, and then finally you get to the end, and Emil is knocked out behind the commander for a second, and the commander sitting there berating the troops. And Emil recovers, and you are to run at the commander and attack him with your shovel. And basically, Emil hits him so hard he kills the commander. And then it fades, and you go to the next section with the other members. I can't remember which exact one it goes to, but that's the last you hear from Emil before the ending. And so you use Anna, save Carl, etc., and then the ending starts, and it's Emil in a jail cell, and a guard comes in and goes, "Emil, it's time." And the entire time you're you're doing this, you've seen this game do all of this stuff, where it teases one thing and then does another, right? And you're expecting a Deus Ex Machina. You're expecting like somebody to bust in and go, "No, he had the right of it," or, he was such a hero that can we forgive him this one slip up or whatever. But no, this game makes you walk Emil to his firing squad while he writes his last letter to his daughter in voiceover. And even in a game where they weren't, subverting this guy's gonna die, or, what have you, that ending is such a punch to the gut.
Yeah, it is. Especially because, kind of like Metal Gear Solid 3, where it makes you pull the trigger, just makes you go up to the firing line, and it's very impactful and a great way to end this game.
Alright, so, anything else you wanted to cover about this game, Randy, or?
Other than the fact that credit scene where they kind of tease the second game, but to me, it's like really sad, somber music about Emil dying, and then all of a sudden, here's a teaser for the next game.
World War II, yeah.
And then back to sad, somber music.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Just put it at the end.
Yeah. I can see
But other than that, it's a great game.
Yeah.
If you haven't played it, go try it out. I wouldn't say it's a great puzzle game, but it tells a great story. And like I said, if you really want to learn more about the history of World War I, it does a great job of telling you stuff about that too.
Alright, so that's going to about do it for Valiant Hearts, The Great War. We're going to go ahead and move right on into my game for this episode. It's going to be Fallout 3 for the PlayStation 3, developed and published, by Bethesda GameWorks, released October 28th, 2008. This is, of course, the third game in the Fallout series, mainline game, because they had Fallout Tactics, and I think there was that awful Brotherhood of Steel game for the PS2. So this game was kind of had an interesting development history. Because obviously 1 and 2 were developed by Black Isle Studios / Interplay, and then they went down like the sinking ship they are, and the intellectual property was kind of up in the air for a while. They had plans for Fallout 3. It was codenamed Van Buren, and they never came to light. And then finally Bethesda got a hold of the IP, and there was this prolonged legal battle over it. And then this game came out. And when it was initially announced, I remember a lot of people were a bit upset that it was going to be a Bethesda RPG, basically, a Western RPG, instead of, the turn-based tactical battle system sort of thing going on. But honestly, having played this game, I think they did a very good job of keeping with the aesthetic of the Fallout series, but also, putting, their Bethesda stamp on it, basically. So this game you play in the capital wasteland of Washington, D.C., which is a bit of a departure from the first two games, which take place in the California and Nevada regions, or what was California and Nevada before it got bombed all to hell by the Chinese, which is another part of the interesting, alternate history that Fallout takes place in. And basically what happens is you start off as a child born in Vault 101 to your scientist father, James. And that's how character creation happens, is you're basically living the first 19 years of your life. And you play through the game. You set your special stats as a baby because the special system returns. You take the GOAT, the Generalized Occupational Aptitude Test, at 16, and that sets your tagged skills like speech and small weapons and lockpicking. And then at 19, you basically do the combat tutorial where you're, escaping the vault to run after your father, James, who also escaped the vault. And then once you get out of the vault into the capital wasteland, the world is basically your oyster. You can go towards the settlement in the distance, Megaton, to start following in your dad's footsteps, or you can just go over to that rock over there and see what you can find.
So before you go any further, I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you can go anywhere in the world. So are all of the enemies about the same difficulty, or are there just parts that you do not want to go to?
They do scale for the most part, although some are more difficult than others, no matter when you encounter them. But for the most part, the enemies do scale fairly well in relation to you.
Okay.
But to be fair, for this playthrough, I stuck to the main quest like glue. I will be going back and playing this game through to, go play some of the side quests, but for the most part, I only did 1 or 2 side quests in this run through of the game, and then I stuck to the main quest like glue because I wanted to make sure I'd, beaten the game by seeing the final credits roll for this project.
Did you?
Yes, I did. I did, and I will be moving on to New Vegas next episode. Spoiler alert. So basically, this game plays out is your dad's left the vault, and you're tracking him down, and eventually you find out he was actually not in the vault all of his life. He was actually came into the vault after your birth because your mother died during childbirth, and he felt like being out in the wastes was no place for you, so he wanted a safe place for you to be. And after you'd grown up to be 19, he decided, okay, he doesn't need me anymore. I'm going to go try and finish what I started. And what he had started with his wife is what is called Project Purity. And it's a massive, large-scale project to purify the water in the Chesapeake Bay Basin. Because the water is still massively irradiated from the global thermonuclear war that occurred 200 years before Fallout 3 even happened. So the main quest of the game is all about catching up to your dad and then helping him finish Project Purity. Literally the last action you take in the game before the DLC content is you activate the purifier and save the wasteland. Or help destroy it, depending on your choices, because it's Fallout, so you have the choice to be a giant flaming douchebag. And put mutagen into the purifier to make it so that anybody who's even slightly irradiated dies when they drink the water.
Nice.
Yeah. This game, I'm trying to think, because I love the game, first off, but I can also see why people were like, this isn't Fallout. I personally don't fully agree with them, but I can see why they might be a little bit upset. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so just in context, what's the timetable between Fallout 2 and Fallout 3? Like, not release-wise.
Let's see here. I'm trying to remember the timetables off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure Fallout 3 takes place a little bit after Fallout 2, but the thing is because Fallout 3 takes place on the Eastern Seaboard, you don't really see anything that happened in Fallout 1 and 2.
No, I meant, like, real life release time, like...
Oh, Jesus. 1998, about 10 years. Because Fallout 2 was 1998.
So see... They couldn't expect the same game, or the same kind of game.
Yeah.
Gotta be some kind of difference 10 years later.
Well, no, they were expecting a turn-based, like, maybe not isometric, but the Fallout 1 and 2 were, all turn-based, tactical combat, where, grid-based combat even, almost, where, you could pause, go attack that guy, and then let it go through. Whereas Fallout 3 is, first-person, real-time with pause combat because of the VATS system where you can hit R2 and decide where you're going to target, which back when I first played Fallout 3 without having played Fallout 1 and 2, because I did try to play Fallout 3 for a bit beforehand in an attempt to get over my, whole thing about jumping into the middle of a series.
Mm-hmm.
And I found the VATS system kind of weird. But now that I've played the first two, I think it's a nice little way to try and go, hey, we didn't quite make, that full turn-based system, from 1 and 2. But here's a nice way to still give you some strategic depth, because you can hit this button, pause time, and decide, I'm going to try to shoot that super mutant in the face 3 times with my combat shotgun. And still miss. Because percentages. So... it's an interesting game. We'll put it that way. I loved every bit of it. The one major irritant I had was, there's a lot of times I found where I was trying to poke around the game world a little bit and, maybe find another way in, than the developers really may have anticipated. And there are a lot of places where they just stuck an invisible wall. And you can pop into third person mode and check your surroundings, and you should theoretically be able to move in the direction you want to move. And nope, you just have wall right in your face. For no real reason besides, fuck you, you're not going there. And I kind of feel I can understand why they might have done it, maybe, sequence breaking, or, they just really didn't want you over in that area. But you gotta at least put something there that's, that makes it so that the player knows, okay, I'm not supposed to be here. Without, bashing their head against it for a couple minutes and then finally going, oh, hey, there must be an invisible wall here. If that makes any sense. Because it wasn't, the specific instance where I finally, wrote it down, or, made a mental note of it to talk about it, was at the Jefferson Memorial, which is where you, finally start kind of picking up your dad's footsteps. I will freely admit, I missed the actual door. And I was poking around trying to find the door, right? And I got around one side of the building, and I'm poking around the edge of it and sitting there crouching, right? And I'm poking around, and I just keep getting stonewalled. And I'm looking, and I'm like, what's stopping me from progressing here? There's no knee-high wall or whatever that I can't jump over. It looks like I should be able to jump and hit this. But no, I can't. I switched to first person, and it's literally just invisible wall that I'm running up against. There's plenty of clearance room and everything else, but it's invisible wall. Which is kind of annoying. I could understand it if it was the edge of the Capital Wasteland or whatever, the edge of the game map. But this was just in the middle of the world, just fuck you, you're not going this way. Which was kind of infuriating. The other thing I will say is the final boss battle, Colonel Autumn. The final one before Broken Steel is a bit disappointing because it's just kind of you can pop his head off in VATS with 3 shots. And it's just kind of well, that sure is a thing that just happened. Combat in this game really isn't difficult unless you get overwhelmed, I've found. Unless you severely fuck up and you have half the dungeon, I guess I will say, for lack of a better term, building on you at once, you should not be dying in this game. I've found. It's not really that hard, especially if you tag the right skills, which for this game I tagged small weapons, lockpick and something else, but that was pretty much what I'd been doing for the first 2 games as well. Got me through the first Fallout. It's getting me through Fallout 2, which I'm still working on, and it got me through Fallout 3. The weapon variety is pretty good. I could do with a bit more ammo out in the world before the scavenger perk. I found myself running out of ammo pretty constantly. But even then, I still had enough backup to, shoot the shit out of things to my heart's content. Or to clear the dungeon, I should say. But, I could have used it with a bit more, margin for error, I guess I'll say. And then I guess the other thing I will touch on is, I was playing on the Game of the Year edition, and there are a few interesting glitches that were introduced because of that. One of them is once you reach the actual Project Purity itself, which is again the Jefferson Memorial, the game has, I'm guessing it's just they set a flag to check for, has the player visited this location yet? If so, play this audio file on the in-game radio stations that you can listen to, like Galaxy News Radio or whatever. What happens is you get to the Project Purity, and Galaxy News Radio's DJ, Three Dog, starts talking about stuff that apparently happens in Broken Steel, the post-original game DLC. When you're barely halfway through the main original Fallout 3 quest. So, I kind of knew how the story was going to end before I was even halfway through it.
Whoops.
Yep. Which is a thing that happens with Bethesda, happened, hopefully they do a bit better with Fallout 4, is they had some interesting glitches in their PS3 games. We'll just put it that way. Because Oblivion had them, I'm pretty sure Skyrim had them, and Fallout 3 definitely has them. But even with those minor things, I didn't really find too much to really complain about. It's fun to play. They captured the feel of post-apocalyptic Washington, D.C. perfectly. It still got kind of that Fallout sense of humor. And I'm psyched to get into New Vegas and eventually Fallout 4. So did you have any questions?
Well, my big question, and it's just kind of an opinion that I'm curious about with you. I want one thing that you feel that Fallout 3 really improved on from the first two games, and one thing that you think that you wish they would have carried over. Because you said that a lot of the original fans were upset with the way the battle system went and that kind of thing. But with you playing these games simultaneously, what's something that you loved that they changed, and what's something that you wish they didn't?
Well, I am going to say that I'm glad that they went and made the battle system change. Because, honestly, I don't think... If they had tried to stay true to the turn-based, grid-based and not first-person, kind of the original PC RPG archetype, there would not have been a New Vegas, let alone a Fallout 4. You know what I mean? Because I don't think it really would have flown as well as the old crowd wanted it to. And honestly, I'm sitting here thinking, and I can't really think of anything from the first two games that I would have liked them to bring forward to 3 that they didn't already. Because they brought forward the special system, they brought forward, like the kind of the sense of humor and like the Vault Boy, mystique. I guess I would say, like the feel, I guess, like how there's a Vault Boy drawing for each perk and whatnot. They brought forward the aesthetic, and the music is on point, so I can't really fault that from the not making the 10-year layover, 10-year gap. So yeah, as much as I know it's a non-answer, I can't really think of anything that, that I wish they would have brought forward from Fallout 2 that they didn't already.
So what you're telling me in layman's terms is this is your favorite one so far?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's not that 1 and 2 are bad, it's just you can definitely
absolutely
tell they're 10 years old at this point.
Yeah.
Or almost 20 years old. Jesus. Because they're, they were released in 98 and 97, so they're getting on up there. Yeah. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to New Vegas, and I just hope it runs good on my computer. It should, because it's a 2010 game, and this computer was built in 2014 and crushes the Rainbow Six Siege beta, which we'll get to later on in the program. So hopefully it'll run New Vegas good, but you never know with the Gamebryo engine. Anyway. That will wrap up Fallout 3, I think, unless you have any other curveballs to throw at me. Well, not
no
curveballs, but, questions, whatever.
Yeah.
But you're saving your curveball for this next one. It's kind of an interesting little story that ended up happening with this next game.
Yeah, so I feel really bad. I was so excited to play this upcoming game because I got to play a level of it at RTX that I went to this year, and I met the developers and some of the voice actors and stuff, and they all seemed really cool. They signed a poster for me. And so I was really excited to be able to play this game. We had Metal Gear Solid Month going on, so I couldn't play it right away. And they had announced a Wii U version of the game. The game I'm talking about is Freedom Planet by GalaxyTrail. So I wanted to wait for the Wii U release, which I believe was August 18th or August 20th. I get the two dates mixed up because of the news we're going to get to. But basically right in that timeline, so I was like, okay, I'll get the Wii U version instead of the Steam version because, for one, I need something on the Wii U to play, and I don't have a great controller for the PC, and I know you can use Xbox controllers and PS4 controllers now, but that just seemed like a lot of work to figure out, and I'm not very smart. So
the PS4 controller should be literally plug and play, but never mind.
Well, no, it's fine. I just haven't.
Yeah,
I'm not much of a PC gamer, so I didn't even want to think about it. So I waited for the Wii U release, and it came out, and I downloaded it, and my son had been playing it off and on, just because it was his kind of a game. And then it came time for me to play it, and I had some technical issues. And I was getting kind of frustrated, and so basically every time you hit a cutscene, it freezes, and it happens every single time. But I was going to go around and test it because it seemed like it would freeze the first time, and then I'd reload it, and the cutscene would go through until you hit the next cutscene, and it would freeze. So I was like, I wonder if I could really just push myself through this game, and had been meaning to go at some point in these 2 weeks and figure out if anybody else is having this problem, and just never got around to it. Got distracted by other podcasts or other life stuff. And so prepping for this, I went, okay, I have to know if anyone else is having this issue, because I've only gotten through two stages of this game because the freezing it freezes the whole system.
Yeah.
I looked it up and come to find out that Freedom Planet said either the day it came out or 2 days before it came out that, listen, it's not releasing because of this glitch where that freezes your Wii U. And I went, it doesn't release? I own the damn thing. What are you talking about? We're not releasing it. So then I looked at their Facebook page, and they did say that on August 20th for a little bit that it was actually on sale. And oops. Basically, so they basically come out and say, listen, if you have downloaded it, just don't play adventure mode, which I was going to play classic mode, and I'll get to both of those modes in a second, but I really wanted to give this game the full review, story mode and everything, so I didn't want to cheap out and go, okay, well, I beat the classic mode or whatever. Basically, adventure mode has story, classic mode is not. It's, do you want all the story that they go with it, or you just want to play the levels? Which I love that edition of it. But basically, Freedom Planet is a love story to the Sega Genesis, Sonic the Hedgehog, and
Gunstar Heroes.
Thank you. I was going to say Gundam. Gunstar Heroes and Mega Man X. You see all of those kind of influences in this game. I would love to tell you more about it, but again, I've only played 2 stages. I will say the story is a little weird to me because they kind of just throw you into it, as far as all these characters know each other and they have all these interactions, and they don't introduce them as well as I was hoping. And the voice acting, you can tell they did them in different times because the quality, even just the quality of the voice is different from character to character. So it kind of sounds like our podcast sometimes, where the audio is not great. But again, it's an indie developer that this game started out as a fan service game for Sonic. They got the okay from Sega to do it because, as the guy said at RTX, they forgot how to make a good Sonic game, so why don't you try? so it was started out like that, and it became something bigger and became its own thing. So I didn't get around to buying it again on Steam because I'm poor, and so I'm just going to be waiting around for them to be able to fix this bug, hopefully soon, and I will give it the full review that it deserves, because again, from the first 2 levels I've played of this game, the gameplay is great. It's straight up Sega Genesis, as far, I mean, with mini bosses and the boss at the end and all the speed of it, and I mean, it has some weird collectible things that I still don't know. They don't do anything other than they're collectibles to me, but maybe as you go farther on, you learn something. But yeah, I started doing a review of a game that technically isn't released yet on the system I was playing it on, so
yeah.
Whoops.
Good job all around.
Yeah.
So, GalaxyTrail, if you're listening to this, that dude from RTX that said he was on a podcast, is very sorry for playing your game early.
Yeah, or playing it on the format that I wasn't supposed to play it on yet. Sorry.
So, at some point, probably he will replay Freedom Planet, and it'll be one of his games for the podcast again.
Yes.
But for now, I think we'll just kind of let the game get patched, and then we'll come back to it at a later date.
Absolutely.
So that's going to bring us to News Roundup, which...
well, let's talk about next episode first.
Oh, wait, next episode, yeah, because we are still doing this. We're going to be co-playing Shadow of the Colossus.
That game's come out, right? I'm not in trouble.
We should be good.
Okay.
Shadow of the Colossus. We're both going to be playing it on the HD collection again, I think. The reason why I say we're both going to be playing it on the HD collection again is because when we were, workshopping this podcast, we'll say, one of the test episodes we did, our co-play was Eco HD.
Don't give me the nightmares again.
And Randy did not like this game.
I hated Eco.
Yeah, nearly as much as I did. And I do still have the audio for that episode. And if I'm feeling feisty, I may just cut the discussion about Eco out of that episode and release it as kind of a mini episode here in the next 2 weeks. So keep an eye out for that. Because I think it's going to very much color the conversation about Shadow of the Colossus. So we'll see. And that should be an interesting little experience there. And then speaking of interesting experiences, I've never heard of this game, and the picture you have of it on the sheet looks interesting. You're going to be playing Long Live the Queen.
Yeah, so basically, I always joke with Wes that I can't remember if they started it while we were doing practice podcasts or if they started doing it right after we released our first couple. Mm-hmm. But obviously, since I went to RTX, I'm a fan of Rooster Teeth. Mm-hmm. They have the thing called The Patch now, which is their gaming podcast. And then part of that podcast now is them, Game Club. Mm-hmm. And they'll play a game and whatever. And it's very interesting to when they have played a game that we have played on our podcast, just to kind of hear the differences, this and that. And one of the games they did a couple months ago was this game, Long Live the Queen. It's for Steam, and it's basically, from what I've understood from what they were talking about, it's a choose-your-own-adventure, and you're trying to stay alive as the queen, and it's really difficult to stay alive because your choices usually end up messing things up, and I guess it changes things, so like, it's not one of those, well, you died here, well, no, just pick something different here. Like, something else will start messing up on you, and things will go completely different. So, I'm really curious about how the gameplay goes and how all that works. So, I'm actually excited to play this game.
Alrighty then. And then I will be finishing up my trek through the post-apocalyptic United States of America for the time being. I will be doing Fallout New Vegas on PC. As alluded to earlier.
So you can finally get through Fallout and start doing Disgaea.
Yeah, really. Honestly, at this point, I would almost welcome Disgaea over I think what we have planned for the rest. No, we'll get to that's for a later time though. So Yeah, that's what's going to be happening next episode. And now we'll kind of get into, it's not going to be quite news roundup this week, or this episode. It's just going to be, we had an interesting discussion the other day about a specific event that was occurring, and is still occurring as of this writing.
Because you are being a baby.
So, the Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege recently entered its closed beta. And it will be going on until October 1st. Recently got expanded because there were some issues getting codes out to people. And the other day, I got my key, and I installed the game. And the first time I tried to open the game, all that happened was the game tried to auto-detect my graphics card settings, tried to set my screen resolution to something ridiculously absurd, like 1200 by 800, and then black screened. Did nothing. Absolutely nothing was going on. I would click the game icon, it would try to readjust the screen, nothing would happen, and then it literally locked my primary monitor to that 1200 by 800 dimension, black screen, and I could not do anything, to the point where I would hit Control-Alt-Delete, and it would try to bring up the task manager screen on the primary screen, which doesn't work, so I couldn't even, force close out of Rainbow Six. So I ended up having to hold the power button down on the actual physical PC itself and hard reboot my system. And I got back on, and I immediately went to Randy on Facebook, and I said, wow, this Rainbow Six Siege beta series is great. I just tried to open it, and I got a black screen and had to hard boot my computer.
So you're telling me you tried this once before you bitched to me?
No, I tried it a couple times.
Okay, because that's what it sounded to me. And listen, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying, suck it up just because your version of the beta doesn't work. That just sucks for you. But to me, that's what this whole thing is for. I mean, yes, we've had this discussion, and yours was an extreme case. If the fact that the game does not even load, that's an issue.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point. Is for them, you can't test every single setup or computer or anything like that. And sometimes, for whatever reason, things get wonky. And for whatever reason, for you, it got wonky the first time, and you said later it worked, so whatever.
Yeah.
But to me, that's what... You go into a closed beta, and I understand... The reason why I got on you about it, it's because when I had gotten ready for work that morning, and I was checking some news stuff, I had seen how there was a lot of people that were upset because it was... a 60% success rate to get into a game. And then once you got into a game, it worked great until you try to find a new game, and then that success rate dropped to like 10%. So you basically had to leave and try again. Mm-hmm. That's what they're trying to work on.
Yeah. And that stuff I'm completely fine with, going suck it up, it's a beta for. But what I basically said to you was, because I will admit, when I type, I generally tend to overemphasize. Like, my message to Randy when I first said, hey, the beta's not working to me, was essentially, hey, great programming job, Ubisoft. Like, this black screen is fucking amazing. Was essentially my message to Randy when I told him I wasn't able to get it running.
Yeah.
So, I'm overly dramatic when I'm typing.
Which I think a lot of people on the internet are, and you guys need to realize... You are being very overdramatic, so that when we read it, we go, wow.
Yeah.
Nerd rage is real.
It does take sometimes, even if you're a seasoned internet veteran like me, and God, that's a really, really awkward phrase, but sometimes you still forget to, install that filter that goes, okay, he's typing on the internet. How much of a problem is this actually? But anyway, but I do have to say that if this had been something on their end, which I'm now not so sure it is, because I could not find anybody else that was having the same issue I was, I am of the opinion that a issue where the game does not even load should have never even left alpha stage. And the reason why I think that, even though, like you said, yes, I'm aware they can't test every single, configuration.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly running a toaster here. This is fairly recent equipment that they should have in most of their testing rigs. Because this isn't super rare Titan X or whatever, or, some 10-year-old GPU I found in my box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch or whatever. It's a fairly mid-range graphics card.
If you got CPUs in your Cinnamon Toast Crunch, I'd eat that cereal a lot more.
Hey, Cinnamon Toast Crunch owns, bitch. And now we're turning into the Cereal Opinions podcast. Anyway, I don't really have anything exotic in here. It's something that should have been caught before the game came out to public consumption, even if it is beta consumption. The game not even loading should be something that would be caught in an internal alpha. Is my opinion on it.
Yes.
In 90% of cases.
Yeah, and I will give you credit.
Like I said, if I were running a toaster, trying to run the Rainbow Six Siege beta on your iPhone or whatever, the equivalent of your iPhone, then yes, that would be on me.
Hell, my iPhone couldn't even run Fallout Shelter. What are you talking about, Rainbow Six?
Anyway.
But no, I will give you credit. You bitching to me is a lot better than bitching on a major website where everyone will get a C. But it was one of those things where, and I got a little trolly with him and started trying to see what buttons I could push and whatever. But it's it's one of those things where you just have to realize, guys, when you're posting on the internet, sometimes, because as Wes said, sometimes you get a little bit more emotional than you think you are, and it comes out different. So, especially on something like this, where you haven't really even looked into seeing if it's right, write it out, walk away for 10 minutes, come back and reread it, and if you go, well, I didn't mean it like that, fix it! Fix it before you hit the send button. It's like me going off on Freedom Planet before actually looking something up. Just look it up. See what's going on. That's what the internet's for.
Okay.
That and porn.
And now that you've ruined your own public service announcement, I'm going to ruin it even further. You may have noticed that while you were talking there, I started giggling uncontrollably and had to basically stuff my fist in my mouth to not have it caught on the capture, or the microphone recording. That's because I just had the thought of, hey, Wes, eat a Snickers. Why? Because you're kind of an asshole when you're hungry.
You kind of are. You kind of are. Just saying.
Oh, Lord. Okay. And on that note, I think we're done here. So, we'll have those games next week, or next episode. Shadow of the Colossus, Long Live the Queen, and Fallout New Vegas? What the fuck? Wow. That's a fucking record. I'm sorry. We got an hour and 13 minutes into the podcast, thereabouts, and through Player Nay and all that without one instance of me wrecking the English language.
That's not true.
Well,
I just haven't brought it up.
Yeah, well, there were a couple times where I said Borderlands instead of, some other series I'm forgetting. But that's the first time I think I've actually butchered the pronunciation of a word, completely and utterly. But, anyway,
So listen, so we have those 3 games coming up in 2 weeks. Check out our YouTube channel at
Backlog Busting. Well, it doesn't have its own official ID yet, but I've been posting the videos as their own posts on backlogbusting.com. We need to get subscribers to our YouTube channel to be able to set an actual ID.
Yeah.
So, go to backlogbusting.com, check out the Mario Maker Monday videos, of which the second episode released yesterday. And then if you like it, comment, and subscribe on the videos for more of those. And also send us your level suggestions, because we want to do vetted levels instead of 100 Mario Maker challenges. That would be great. So that'll about wrap it up for this episode. Stay tuned to the blog and to the YouTube channel and the Facebook and the Twitters and all the other social media sites and 411 and Holy crap, there's a lot of stuff to cover.
Yes.
At any rate, a whole bunch of content hopefully starting to come down the pipe soon. And until next time, as Will Wheaton once said, play more games. Why are you doing this to me, microphone? Why? Why?
XYZ. RPG.
AT&T. CBS.
10-10-220. No.
God damn it. That's probably one of the most obscure references I've ever made. Do you know what movie...